Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Sounds of the Diaspora, artist to artist conversation with Dion Parson. Welcome. It's an honor to have our guest tonight, someone that I've known for many, many years, and we've played some great gigs together, traveled the world together. He's actually from South America, from Venezuela, and he has an interesting story to tell. So please join me in welcoming pianist, educator, arranger, and composer, the one and only Mr. Benito Gonzalez.
Hey, Dion, how you doing, man?
Hey, Benito, I'm good, man. How's it going?
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Yes, sir. You're in New York City, right?
Yeah, here is very cold right now.
Yeah, you don't. I look cold. You don't look cold, but I look cold. So how you been, man? Besides being cold in New York, how have you been?
Everything good. I've been moving a little bit for the last 3-4 months. I've been out quite a bit. So by the end of the year, I decided to go to South America. I stopped by Colombia, and then I went to Venezuela for like a few days, and then I came back to New York. Man, I needed a break. It's been in and out. I'm still doing things partially with Kenny, but I'm doing a lot of trio stuff.
Okay.
So it's been okay. I think the pandemic is kind of winding down, so it's great to see the venues bringing back the music and all the festivals.
Right. And the last time I saw you, and we did stuff together was actually a year ago to the date. We were in Uruguay.
Oh yeah, that was a great experience, man.
Yeah. We were down there for the festival, and there was a number of bands. You had a great group. You had Mark Gross and Tatev with you.
Yes,
and I was there with
yes.
Elio Villafranca and his band with Vincent Herring and Freddie Hendricks and Edward. We had so much fun, and you left there and you went. I think you went to Venezuela after that. So every time you get to South Africa, you got to make your rounds, huh? I mean, South
Oh
America, you make
yeah,
your rounds, yeah.
I try to because you are from St. Thomas. The energy that we get when we go home is untouchable, man.
It
You
is.
know,
It
I,
is. It is. And that's one of the reasons why I'm happy you were able to adjust your schedule to be here, because I want you to share with our audience your upbringing musically, because you didn't study music per se in college. You eventually did it, but your upbringing musically and what was the similarities and differences in studying in South America versus when you came to New York?
oh, night and day. I mean, in South America, we don't have jazz schools.
Yeah.
I mean, there was. I mean, we can have like private lessons, but in that time I was very young, and I didn't have the resources to have private lessons. So what I did was I bought a lot of CDs. Back then there was CDs in the 90s, early 90s. So I bought a lot of CDs, and I like every week I was buying 1 or 2 CDs of like things that I needed to work on. So and then I will get together with this trumpet player from Cuba who introduced me to so much music, you know, because back in when I was in Caracas, that was in the capital of Venezuela. I'm from Maracaibo originally, which is the north, is near the coast.
Hmm.
But I moved to into the capital because I wanna be with the cats. You know, where the
Yeah, you want to
Caracas
get.
is like the New York. It's like the New York in Venezuela. So I wanted to be around them, and I was very young. I was 16, 17 years old,
Oh, wow.
but
Okay.
I really wanted to play. So I moved there, and I was doing a lot of listening. I was listening to and my friend trumpet player, he introduced me to we went through the decades in jazz. We started from back the ragtime. We started from
Okay.
we used to watch like Scott Joplin, and then we until we got to the bebop. I started listening to Bud Powell, and then from then on, we went on the 50s. There was Bill Evans, there was Herbie started late 50s, and then the 60s. So we went through the decades.
Hmm.
And then, I remember one day I was listening to, before I met him, I had a roommate who was another piano player. So he gave me a cassette tape with a mix of piano players, and there was Chick Corea was on that. It was mostly Chick Corea's tracks. So
Okay.
I was listening to that album. Now he sing, now he subs, right? So I show up when I met the trumpet player. He says, "Come to my apartment, man. I want to show you some music." So I came to his place, and he said, "What you listening to right now?" And then I show him the tape. I said,
Hmm.
"Oh, Chick, okay, this is great." And then he took the cassette and he put it on the side. He says, "I'm gonna show you where this come from." And we went on this wall. He got all the vinyls, the LP, McCoy Tyner. He was like, he pulled out one of those classics. I think it was Enlightenment or something like that.
Hmm.
That was the first time I heard McCoy. I was like, wow, because I heard what Chick was doing, plus all the
Right. Right. The extensions. Yeah.
so from there, I started to buy a lot of CDs. So I was buying a lot of music every week for those years. I live in Caracas for 8 years, 8 9 years before I
Okay.
moved to the United States.
Oh, nice, great. But it's interesting how you can find the resources down there. So Caracas happens to be a hit place in Venezuela because they have,
Yes,
yeah, they have the music.
yes.
So how did you get to the States? How did that happen?
So yeah. So when I was in Caracas, I was going to this club called uh, Joan Sebastian Bar.
You-
So that's
Johann
the main club
Sebastian. Okay.
bar. Yeah, which is that's the main jazz club in Caracas. In
Named
Venezuela,
after
is
a
the
classical guy with a alcohol last name.
yes, yes, indeed.
Love it.
so that club is like is like the vanguard in Caracas.
Mm.
So I used to go there to check piano players. I used to sit next to the piano like this to check them out. Whoever was in town will go there. Chucho Valdez, all of them come to town. I remember I heard like Paquito used to go there. Pat Metheny when was in Venezuela. All the cats that came to Venezuela used to go there just to
Mhm.
hang out because it was the jazz club in Caracas.
Right.
So I was just very young trying to like learn how to play. I mean, watching these piano players. Then, like a year after, because the piano player who was doing the gig, he used to see me all the time. So, one time he just called me, man. He said, "Hey, man, can you play this Friday and Saturday? I have to go out with this singer, and I have no one to, my sub is busy also." I was like, "Yeah, I want to play." So
Mhm.
that was my first gig as a jazz musician professionally.
Nice.
So he says, "Yeah, there will be a sax player on Friday and a trumpet player on Saturday." So check this. Um, uh, when I show up to the gig Friday, the sax player didn't show up, so I have to play trio, and I didn't know many tunes by heart. So
Wow.
I was like, wow, man, this is. I right away I learned that that music was like something very very serious. I mean, I had to like really. I was spending many hours practicing. So
Mhm.
that was my. That's how it started in Caracas, in that club, Joan Sebastian Bar. So
Mhm.
I I used to play there from Mondays through Saturdays when I finally got the gig, because that piano player eventually moved to the States. He's in Boston now. He's a teacher in Berkeley. His
Okay.
name is Leo Blanco. So
Okay.
so when he came into the States, I got the gig.
Okay.
So I was there short time because I moved, you know, to the United States. So when I was playing this gig, I met, one night I saw this American guy. I knew he was American because he had a beard, he was, light skin, and he came with this African guy. So they sat somewhere in the room and we were playing and they were listening. When we finished the set, the American guy came to me and he spoke Spanish. I was speaking no English back then. So
Mhm.
he asked me, hey, man, can I bring my instrument? I play the vibraphone. I would love to sit in with your band. I was like, sure thing, man. Bring it for the next set. We have like two more sets. I used to play three sets there.
Wow. Okay.
So, yeah, so, long story short, he brought his vibe and he sounded great. I mean, I was like, wow, this guy can play. When we finished, he gave me his card. He was the cultural ambassador of the United States in Venezuela.
Okay.
So he
Okay.
was like, hey, man, I like your band. I would love to know if you want to work with me in the English schools in Venezuela to do like to promote jazz in Venezuela, because that was his job, was to promote the American culture, right?
Okay.
So he hired my band. That being said, I was 18 years old, bro. So, you know, I was like, yeah. And I was getting paid in US dollars in Venezuela. So,
I
it
hear
was
you.
it was a big change for me. And we did some work. Then he decided to come back into the United States. He used to live in Washington, D.C. And you know, uh, he called me 2 months after he came back, and he asked me, "Hey, man, you wanna come to do some gigs here? I have some work for your band. If you wanna come." I
Mhm.
was like, "Sure." And then I came for 6 months. They gave me a permit. He sent me to the embassy in Caracas. Take your passport to this office. He says, "Go there. Tell this is the secretary. Go
Mhm.
there and tell her that I sent you." So I went there. They put me like a stamp in my passport, and I came, and it was fun. So I play a few gigs in DC through the government.
Mhm.
Then, uh, but I went to hang out though. I hang out. I went to Blues Alley, and I went to the jazz clubs around there,
Mhm.
and I saw the piano players though. But when I went to Blue Salis, I saw the band was McCoy, Tyner, Al Foster, and Chernette Moffett.
Okay.
So when I
Good
sat
band.
like literally next to the piano, brother, I was like, and that changed my life completely, because I knew McCoy from my friend that introduced me to McCoy in Caracas.
Mhm.
But seeing him playing live, it was like a life changing experience, because I figured out that I had to stay to like to learn as much as I could from that music.
Right.
And after 6 months, he asked me, what do you wanna do?" Because he's from the government. He says, "You wanna stay or you wanna go back? I mean, let me know, because he will gonna give me another permit to stay." I said
Mhm.
I want to stay, but I want to go back. I told him I want to go back a couple of months to get things set to come back and stay. He said, "Okay, no problem, man. Just go to this office again and tell them that I send you and you are coming back in 2 months."
Mhm.
And that was it. After that, I came back after 2 months, and uh, when I met him the first time, the African guy was a percussionist who happens to play with Jackie McLean and Pharoah Sanders. And
Mm.
he was doing a recording, and I recorded. He invited me to record a couple of tracks, so I recorded a couple of tracks, on his record. And when we were in the studio, he called Jackie McLean, man, on the phone. I was like, wow. He says, "Hey, Jackie, I'm here with a piano player in Venezuela that you have to check out, man." And then Jackie told him to make sure to contact me when he comes into the States. And I
Mm.
did. But I met Renee McLean first. I met Renee McLean when I moved to Washington first. Renee used to go there a lot. He had a girlfriend there back then. And we used to play around town. And a week after I moved there, I mean, I play with Renee. Renee hired me to play in Baltimore. We play in the New Haven Lounge. It was used to be called this club. So we played
Mm.
there, and wow, I mean, it was life-changing experience. It was a great band. James King on bass, the guy who played with Gary
Mhm.
Bartz,
Yeah.
and the drummer Harold Summy. You
Harold
know,
Summer, yeah.
you
Yeah,
know
I know Harold
Harold,
Summer,
yeah,
yeah.
bro. That band was like I was in heaven. I was like, whoa, this is great. So I started playing with Renee's band. I played with Renee, and then it happened that Ronnie Barrage came into the band, and he was playing other gigs. I was like, man, I like these drummers. So because I love drummers, that's
You
why I
have a
like
thing
the
for
way you play,
drummers.
man. I like the way you play, man. you know, but I was like, man, I love this. And then like a few months later, uh, Jackie called me on the phone, on the cell phone, and he asked me to do an audition for him. And
Mm.
I did an audition, and long story short, I played with Jackie for the last period of his life.
Mm.
And then
Yeah,
I
and
met
then
Kenny Garrett through Jackie.
Jackie's
I
band
met
was
Kenny.
huh?
I met Kenny through Jackie, but we're gonna get there, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, I was just saying Jackie's band was Eric McPherson, was he on
Correct.
drums?
Back then, it was
And
when
Nat?
I not, but in that time it was Phil Bowler
Oh,
on
Phil,
bass.
okay. Yeah.
And Eric and
Mm.
me, Renee and Jackie. Yeah, we play some of that period.
Nice.
It
So
was short because Jackie.
you go ahead.
It was short because Jackie got ill. He got ill, and he passed away very very shortly after that. I mean, I didn't have the chance to play much, but we did play. I mean, we play at the radio.
Hmm.
I mean,
Oh yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Jackie had a great
it,
band. Yeah, that's good lineage to learn from. Those guys came out of the apprenticeship. I remember having conversations with musicians from that era, and they always talk about being in an apprenticeship. Being with a band for a certain amount of time to learn and develop your craft, versus
right.
playing with a bunch of people. And because a lot of out here, a lot of the young guys they just want to have their own band and have their own name and be a band leader. But back then it was about being an apprenticeship to develop the craft the right way.
That's right.
Yeah, to make sure you had a good solid foundation and understand your role as a musician, your job in the band, understand those things. So that shows a lot of you can hear that foundation. So you hooked up with Jackie McLean. You work with some great musicians from Steve Torre to Bobby Hutcherson to Gary Bartz, but I think I think a lot of people know you for your time with Kenny Garrett. A lot of people know you for that time, playing with Kenny Garrett. How did that relationship come about?
So when I was in Venezuela, actually, when we young, we have like dreams. So so I was thinking, man, if I ever move into the States, I want to play either with Michael Brecker or Kenny Garrett. That was in my
Oh, okay.
head.
Yeah. Uh, you
so
have hey, I'm gonna
so
tell you a little secret. When I moved, not to cut you out, when I moved to New York, I
go
made
ahead.
a list of 100 musicians that I would want to play with. And you have to think like this, and I played with about 80 of them. And the reason why I didn't play with the other ones because they
Wow.
weren't around, that long for me to play with. A lot of them had left us at that time. But I made that list, and it's like, And I didn't really like chase after it. Is like I would meet somebody, they would, hey man, give me your number, let's play. Or I'll go to a gig and sit in and they on the stage and then they'll, so if you don't think like that, and if you don't have those, that perception of like, this is how I want to pursue my career. So you came to the States with an agenda and it worked out for you.
Oh yeah, yeah. I had that in my mind, but when I met Jackie, it changed everything. Because and my playing in that time, it was a lot of focus on bebop. I was playing very differently,
Mm.
so it works out for what happened when I play with Jackie. But when we play in New York for the first time, my first time in New York was playing with Jackie McLean, bro. We play
Oh wow.
when I
Okay.
remember when I came from DC on the train to New York. When I got out of the station and I saw this building, bro, I was standing up looking like this for like at least 10 minutes. At least 10 minutes. I was like sucking the energy. It was so crazy.
Mm.
So I started playing in New York, and that week Kenny Garrett came every night to see Jackie. So one of the nights he approached me, he asked me, hey man, you sounds good. He didn't tell me his name. He said, can you give me your phone number? I didn't recognize him. I knew
Mm.
Kenny for he used to wear, but he was dressed like normal, like he didn't look like Kenny, man. So I saw this guy who came to me and he asked me for my number. I told him, just can you give me a second? I was like, give me a second. I will give you my number because we just finished the set. You know how it is. You want
Mhm.
to take like a minute because he ran into the piano. Like he was like, hey man, can you give me your number? Okay. And then I went backstage and I was talking with Jackie. We was talking. Jackie was telling me about piano players that he liked. We was talking. Then I see the guy coming in. I'm like, who is this cat? And then all of a sudden Jackie says, hey Benito, you met Kenny Garrett? I was like, oh gosh.
Mhm.
So I grabbed this big piece of paper and wrote my number right away and gave it to me. Because I've been dreaming of playing with this guy.
Uh-huh.
So I gave him my number, and I remember he called me like a week after. He tried back then. That was 2002, 2003, I think. Back then, he wanted me to come to his house to play, but it didn't work out. It didn't work out because I was in Hartford, I think, with Renee doing something. So and that stays like that. Jackie passed away, unfortunately, and I
Mm.
was in DC. I was still in Washington DC. And then one day I got a phone call in 2006, 2005, maybe December 2005, late December. It was like December 28, 29, or yeah, something like that. And it was Kenny. He left a message. He's like, hey, Benito, it's Kenny. I'm glad you still have the same number. He says, I am looking to audition piano players, and I want to know if you are interested in audition for my band.
Mhm.
We're gonna have the audition at Michiko's, uh, blah blah blah, and then yeah, man, I was like, yeah, sure. I came to New York and we auditioned. I did the audition. There was like five piano players and five drummers. He auditioned drummers and piano players the same day in the same room, bro.
Mm.
We was playing one song and he was rotating piano players and drummers like
Okay.
that. So I was like, nobody knew who was gonna get this gig. I was like, I'm definitely not getting this gig. I was like, man, there is so many great piano players that and it's
Mm.
not worth to talk about it. But
Right, right, right. Yeah.
anyway, so I finished the audition. I went back to DC. Next day in the morning, 7 a.m., I was asleep. I didn't answer the phone. He left another message. He said, hey, Benito, it's Kenny. I love the way you play, and I want to know if you want to play with my band. I like what you did in the audition, and here is a list of tunes that I will like you to learn. He gave me like 15 songs. I knew already like 12 of those.
Mm.
So I was ready. Because I've been following him, as I told you, from Venezuela.
Mm.
So when I started playing, we started with Kenny. Was at Berlin. Back then, Berlin used to have the band from Tuesdays through Sundays.
Right.
Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
So we played from Tuesday through Sunday, and right after this week, we went right into Europe. We was in Europe for like a month and a half, bro. That's my
Yeah,
starting with
that's how
Kenny.
tours used to be back then. Yeah.
That's how I started my journey with Kenny.
Mm.
And I work in the band consistently until like 2013, 12, 13, and then on and off he will call me to do stuff. I did another recording with him when he needs me, when for something special or something that he wants me to play. He will call me and say, "Hey man, you want to do this?" Like,
Mm.
and we are still doing it. Last year we did something in Asia. And
Mm.
we always keep in touch.
Yeah.
I love to leave the doors open when I leave my bands.
Mm.
I left because I wanted to do my own. I already had done so much with him, and I felt like I
Yeah.
wanted to do my trio, and
Yeah.
I wanted to do other projects. I ended up playing with Pharaoh Sanders, with Asa
Yeah.
Lawrence. I did other stuff.
And you work again. You work with some great folks, but I've following you. I see that your forte now is kind of like piano trios. That's one of the things, and I guess that goes back to that first gig you did in Venezuela, where the horn player didn't show up, and you had to learn everything. So that became your staple, and that's what you're
Yes,
known
indeed.
for. You get out there, you just do your thing as a leader in a piano trio, and it's really great to hear you, because coming from a drummer perspective, you're very rhythmical in your playing, and that's something that's unique. I don't want to say it's a McCoy influence, because I'm sure that's something you had from Venezuela and was able to take what you learned from McCoy and make that your own as well. But I can hear that influence, but I can hear your Latin influence rhythmically as well. Is all part of your sound, which is beautiful.
Indeed, indeed. The first instrument I've been in music since I was 3, but I didn't
Okay.
play. I didn't play piano. I first play drums, hand drums,
Okay.
because in Venezuela there is a saint that is called San Benito. Is a saint, and they have a church for this
Mm.
saint. So, and my uncles from my father's side, they were the owners of these churches, and the music of the church is drumming. It's like hand drums.
Right.
So I was playing these hand drums when I was 3. I learned because I used to see them all the time. So meanwhile, every day from my mother's side, they were playing folk Venezuelan music. So I was
Right.
doing music every day, Dion, since I was 3.
And that's what I'm saying. It shows. I could hear that influence in your
Yeah.
music and as a leader and the stuff that you present all the time. Even in our conversations, I can talk drum to you and you understand it. A lot of our friends, musicians, they're like, yeah, I just need you to play it. You don't have to tell me what you do.
Right.
Yeah, but it's great, man. But listen, I know time is a factor, and I don't want our audience to miss out on your sound. We can continue talking about your influence, which is great and is informative to me as well. But you shared some music with us, and I would love to present some of that to our audience. The first song you shared with us is "Views of the Blues," and that's a trio recording, a presentation that you shared. So let's listen to that, and then you'll tell us about it afterwards. So let's just check out "Views of the Blues."
Yeah, man.
Benito, Views of the Blues. So who's on that recording?
Well, that's my very last recording. The name of the record is Sing to the World. And
Okay.
Views of the Blues is Jeff Tain Watts and Christian McBride on the bass. Uh, it's great. It was a great thing because uh, Christian didn't know Tain was gonna come because I have two drummers in this record. I did the first part with the first drummer, but Tain showed up around 3.
Okay.
Christian saw Tain, he was like, "Oh wow!" And Big Orange Ship, the studio was huge. They have 2 rooms, so we set up Tain's drum in a different room than the other drummer. So we
Okay.
didn't have to like break the other drums.
Okay.
So it was like just a matter of few minutes for us to start playing, and that was the first tune that we recorded.
Mhm.
We just run it once and let's do it, and
Mhm.
that was the first take. What you just heard.
Hey, well, that's what happens when you deal with those guys, So that's
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful music. So what's the concept behind Views of the Blues? The title.
Yes. The idea of this is because I kind of like wanted to use harmonies, like these harmonical concepts that I learned mostly on my time with Kenny and also with Pharoah Sanders. That they have this unique way of playing melodies in very complex chords, like I
Mhm.
the melody on Views of the Blues is like 2 stack of chords together,
Mhm.
and the melody is the last note of the right hand, so it's 2 different chords on it.
Mhm.
So Views of the Blues is because that was the way I was viewing that blues that we play. It was a blues in E also.
Mhm.
It's
Right.
not in B flat, nor in F,
One of the
no.
most popular
In
keys,
E,
right?
in E natural. So it's
Yeah.
E dominant. So we kind of have fun with that. I love Christian because Christian was right so organic on it, you
Mhm.
know. So that's the reason why it's Views of the Blues, because it's a different view that you would expect,
Right.
for somebody to play a B flat blues.
Right. Right. You played it in E, but you have the right cast for it. So great recording. We have one of our listeners says, "Classic jazz. Your links to the greats is so obvious." So, and somebody else says, "Love it." So, did you compose and arrange this too? So, yeah, the audience is asking if that's that's his original composition. When are you coming
Yeah,
to New
well,
Orleans?
New Orleans, I hope soon. I hope soon. I've been there a couple of times. I don't know any time recently. If I will go there, I might gonna go with Kenny probably. But I love New Orleans. I mean, I love the also the music that comes out of there is so amazing. It's so rich,
Mhm.
you know. And yeah, and yes, I wrote and arranged the song. Yeah, I all the parts, everything was written by when we started playing it. And
Mhm.
but they are so great. They sight read so well, and they get along. Meaning Tain and Jeff Tain and Christian McBride.
Yeah.
So we only run this tune once just to make sure all the breaks were right, everything was cool. You know how it is in the studio, Dion. So
Yeah.
and then we decided, okay, let's just do it.
Let's
Okay,
just
yeah,
do it.
let's go for it, and that's what happens. That's it.
That's what happens. Yep. And it sounds great, man. It sounds great. So
Thank
that
you.
was Views of the Blues by the great Benito Gonzalez. And we're going to check out the other song entitled Offering. Let's check this out. Offerings. That's offering Benito. So that's another trio presentation, right?
Yes.
And who's on that recording?
Same personal, Christian McBride, Jeff Tain Watts.
From the same recording.
Correct. And yeah, I think it was when I wrote this tune. I think it must has been like 2014. Yeah, I was thinking about mostly like Mulgrew Miller and Kirkland
Okay.
also.
Yeah.
And you know, and how lucky that we are, like, because as yourself, you also work with so many legends and then now many of them are leaving us, and
Yeah.
now, it's like it feels more like our responsibility to keep, the torch and keep it, because
Definitely.
so I felt like my relationship with Margaret was cool because he was Kenny Garrett's best friend. So he used to come to our gigs and sit in all the time. When we play in New York, Margaret was always there,
Right.
and he will come and play a tune or so, and then we used to have long conversations, and so that was like my offering to my 2 cents in what I learned and the experiences of sharing so many stories and being around these legends and like Mulgrew, Tain himself, Jeff Watts, and Christian, Kenny Garrett, guys like that, and then
That's beautiful. It's a beautiful song. Somebody said so romantic. We just have another look. Somebody earlier said Gershwin, so I get it now. So there's a lot of references to the history,
yeah,
the lineage.
it could be. I
Yeah,
love Duke Ellington though. I
Yeah.
love Duke Ellington. I think it's and
Good stuff.
and it comes from that. Definitely comes from that. And but the thing is, romantic. Well, it's not really. It was not made for a woman. No.
Well, I won't say romantic in a way. I think it has that setting of, I know what you're thinking, but I'm not going to go there with you. We're going to go on to the next recording, which is another trio presentation that you shared with us. I'm leaving you alone, Benito.
I know what you're talking about.
The next song is called Pedicina. And so let's check that out. Okay, we have a listening audience here. We're going to be nice. All right, let's check out the next recording, Pedicina. Okay.
Okay.
Teresina. Yes.
Yeah,
Now that's a different trio than the other trio. So who are those accompanying musicians?
indeed. So that's the great Marvin Smith on the drums, and the bass player's name is Philip Rex, and he's that was live in. Oh, you played there in Melbourne, Australia, at the
Mhm.
Birds basement,
Oh, that's
and
Australia. Okay.
yeah, so
Yeah.
that was a week. We did a week there. It was so much fun because we played mostly the McCoy repertoire.
Okay.
So including this tune is one of the McCoy's classics,
Mhm.
Peresina, and it was great. It was fun. It was a fun experience. I had already played with Marvin Smithy, with Azar Lawrence. We did one recording.
Mhm.
Then we play a few concerts. Then when I got the week to go to Australia, I called Marvin and he was available. I was like, okay, let's do it. That was 2020. That was January 2020, right
Beautiful.
before the pandemic.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Our audience, one of our listeners said, "Great show," and somebody else said, "I can feel your passion for your music." So people
Oh,
are
thank you.
enjoying your music, man. It's great stuff, man. So you shared one more song with us, and time is not our friend right now, so I want to jump right into it. But hey, Benito, great music, man. Great
Oh,
conversation,
thank you,
and
Dion.
yeah,
Appreciate
yeah.
you inviting me, man.
Yeah, so we're gonna have this last song, and then we're gonna wind up some things. But let's just check out this song. I think is original, "Smile," right?
Yes, it's original. Smile.
Okay, let's check
Mhm.
this out. "Smile" by Benito Gonzalez. Smile, that smile, and the funk is definitely in the house, and that smile. And that brings the smile. That's why I went on to the next song because I was like, you know what, let's bring the smile. But that's
That's a that's a
funky one.
fun tune, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so who's the cast of members on that one?
Yes, that's Nicholas Payton on trumpet. The
Mhm.
drummer this time is Sasha Mashin. He's a great drummer from Moscow, from Russia,
Okay.
uh, who recorded a few tracks. Christian McBride on the bass, and myself on the piano. Yeah, it's a fun tune. I thought it was fun to add some beats on the recordings. I feel like as yourself, Dion, that you you know when I see your shows, you have like so many different, you cover so many aspects of the African music, and
Mhm.
that's what I try to do. I come from South America. Obviously, we have a lot of Latin, like Cuban influence we do, but the thing is, I love African rhythms. Anything with a beat, I love. I mean, it's like
Right.
that. So when in my albums, I always try to cover at least a few of those. Meaning straight ahead is also one of those.
Right. Right.
So in my albums, you always gonna hear things like this, like that, and
Yeah.
then you hear some African beat, some blues, some.
Mhm.
So I don't try to cover like things like just straight ahead,
Right.
which I have done that with Kenny, but Kenny also at this point with Kenny Garrett is using different aspects also
Mhm.
from the African experience, but as yourself, because I seen that you also do that with your own projects, and it's you understand what it means to learn how to play a beat and how to feel and play inside of certain beats, and I think that's why I record tunes like this.
Yeah, and it's great, and I think yes, it's from the Afro Caribbean, Afro Brazilian, or Afro South American diaspora is part of that culture. And I always tell people I heard all of these rhythms before I heard American music. The
Right,
Virgin Islands right next to Puerto Rico, and then we have the French Caribbean islands. There was so much rhythms coming out of our cultural music before I even heard hip hop and R&B and all of that. I was listening to a lot of this stuff. So for me, it's natural to want to present that in our music, and I applaud you for doing that, and even finding ways how to put your Venezuelan music into that, because it's all part of that. That's how jazz was created. I mean, the cats didn't just say let's create something. They heard the music coming out of the opera houses and the classical stuff, and then there's a rhythm coming from here, and the influences of all of those musical genres and the cultures coming together created these art forms. So in the next 10 years, you might be playing something, you may have come up with something different. You never know because
right,
of
right,
what you're trying. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah. But you
yeah,
you you have a you I mean you have such a unique sound. Is very powerful, it's very rhythmical, it's captivating, I would say it's honest. When I hear you play, it's just honest. You're in it. It brings a smile to your face and it captivates you in what you're doing. So I personally want to thank you for what you've brought to the scene, leaving your hometown and moving to New York through the various paths that you've did. But it's always been a pleasure playing with you, and it's always been
oh, my
honor
pleasure, man.
checking you out.
Same here. I mean,
I just want to wish you continued
even
success, bro. Yeah,
everything we've done, and from up until last year at this time, we was hanging out in Uruguay, man.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I had the honor to have you sitting in my van, man. It's
yeah.
I
A
had
lot
to
of
do
fun.
it, man.
Yeah, a lot of fun, man. Really, really appreciate it, and all you've done. Before we leave, because our time is up, but let our audience know where they can hear you. What was the name of your last project? How they can follow you? Just share that information.
Sure. So I have a new album coming out this year. I don't have a title for it yet, but it's a live recording at the Keystone Corner, and I'm sure you're gonna find it in many of the platforms, digitals, and also you can find me in YouTube. Is Benito Gonzalez. You can find me in Instagram, Benito Piano, and Facebook, Benito Gonzalez Official. And thank you for having me, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. You are one of the drummers that I really like. I really like to play with, and there is only a few, but
Well, thank
yeah,
you, man. I appreciate
every
it,
time
bro.
with you is a big fun.
Yeah.
I felt like last time we played, we were just waiting to get to that New York energy when we got together and played Passion Dance. It was like,
Yeah. We
Freddie
had a good
Hendrix
time. It
sounded
was a
great too.
beautiful
Freddie
experience.
Hendrix and you, man, and it
Yeah.
was like, wait a second, this thing.
Yeah, we had a good time. It was a lot of fun, man. It's a lot of fun. Well, you always
Yeah.
bring that energy. So thank you again, man. Benito, it's been an honor and a pleasure having you on the show, man. Continued success to you. We'll be in touch. When your album comes out, let me know, remind me, let me know so we can make sure that we share that with our audience, okay?
Yes, indeed. Thank you
All
so
right,
much,
man.
Dion.
All the best, bro. Take care, man.
Thank you for having me. Take care.
Yes. That was the one and only Mr. Benito Gonzalez sharing his love of music and his passion and his story coming from Venezuela, man. It's really beautiful coming from South America, making a name for himself. So we thank him for sharing his story with us. Please join us next week. Come back and join us next week because we have another amazing musician. This gentleman is joining us from the Netherlands, and he has a beautiful story to tell as well. So his name is Mikael Veiderkam, and I would love for you guys to come back and join us next week at the Sounds of the Diaspora and check out Mikael's story as well. So thank you all for joining and tuning in with us. It's been an honor and a pleasure hosting this show for you guys. Take care.